food and social security schemes.
In 2001, the case was filed in the context of, there were three factors basically in the context in which the case was filed. One was recorded starvation deaths in Rajasthan, and then there were other starvation deaths reported from other parts of the country. Second, it was a very bad year of drought, which resulted in destitution. And thirdly was excessive food stocks, so 60 million tons plus food stocks in the government's godowns.
Since then, nearly 100 orders have been passed by the Supreme Court, and many of these orders have been landmark orders. Now, please remember that this is the longest continuing mandamus, the longest continuing case on the right to food anywhere in the world, and it's perhaps the most outstanding example of judicial activism in an economic, cultural, social rights case, in an ESRC case. It's absolutely, there is no other parallel to the right to food case anywhere in the world, and it's being hailed globally as a judicial landmark.
The Indian government implements massive food, livelihood and social security programs, some of the largest in the world, which theoretically support vulnerable people from even before their birth to their survivors after death. Yet they have been unable to substantively address the problem of chronic hunger. Many food rights activists argue that this is not only because of gaps in implementation, but also because they do not provide for sustainable and lasting livelihood options. The landmark PUCL vs Union of India case of 2001, better known as the Right to Food case, led the Supreme Court not only to recognize the right to food as part of the right to life, but also include distribution and access to food as part of the right. The Supreme Court also appointed 2 commissioners for the purpose of monitoring the implementation of the interim orders.
In a sense, the court's orders, these 100 orders, I think what they have done is 3 or 4 things. The first of them is that there were various schemes. There is a social security pension for the aged, there's employment programs, there's programs for subsidized food, midday meals, ICDS feeding, etc. These are all were programs that existed in the past. The court hasn't created new programs. But what it done is about 3 or 4 things. The first is that it said these are no longer schemes or programs, they are entitlements. In effect, they said this by saying that none of these can now be withdrawn or reduced without the permission of the court. So that is the first big thing. So they converted these programs into entitlements. It established a mechanism for the enforcement of these rights on an ongoing basis. This whole office of an independent commissioners, kinds of ombudspersons appointed by the court, who would give a series of reports to the court about how governments are performing in relation to fulfilling these entitlements. So it converted schemes into entitlements, it universalized those entitlements, it expanded the content of these entitlements, and finally it established a mechanism for the monitoring of these entitlements through this office of the commissioners.
The orders on universalizing access to food, especially for children, related to midday meals and the Integrated Child Development Scheme have been judicial landmarks. On November 28, 2001, the Supreme Court directed state and central governments to universalize the midday meals and provide hot-cooked meals to all primary school children in India. The interim order also universalized the ICDS program, making it mandatory for government to provide supplementary nutrition and the other 5 services under the ICDS to all children below the age of 6, all pregnant women, nursing mothers, and adolescent girls.
Court has created a framework for what schemes under food security would mean in terms of government delivering it to the people. Otherwise, the dominant debate in the media and even now amongst policy is that only PDS is equal to food security. But the Supreme Court orders, especially related to cooked meals in schools and universalization of ICDS, you can see has made a significant difference over the last 10 years since the case began. For example, we had 6 lakh Anganwadi centers in 2001 when the case began. Today there are almost 14 lakh Anganwadi centers in the country, and this is directly because of the Supreme Court. So and similarly cooked midday meals. When the case began, they used to give dry rations everywhere. Now there is cooked meal available across the country, again a direct result of the Supreme Court order.
I think midday meal schemes is one of the better programs. At least in our state is one of the well implemented programs, and it has definitely led to an increase in children attending school. And I think it's led to retention also, because now what is happening is that midday meal is being extended up till class 10, class 8, and now then after that till 10. So it's not even as if it's sort of the impact it has on children's desire to go to school. It's there for a long period of time, so it should help in retention. But what I think is the problem is that schooling otherwise has become very expensive. Like for example, books have to be bought. Even though the school is supposed to give free books, there will still be something that is to be bought. They have to buy, sort of copies, pencils, pens, all that kind of thing. So schooling is definitely not free. So that is what is actually impacting and having a problem. So midday meal by itself is not sufficient. The other aspects of the kind of education also have to be covered if they really want to sort of continue with this, with children coming to school. But as a scheme, I think it's had a positive impact. By itself, it has had a positive impact. But you need many more other things also if you actually want to make education a reality for children.
The Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme is the flagship program of the present Indian government. The scheme promises 100 days of employment to village communities and improve their livelihoods. It is considered a lifeline for many rural families. Despite its flaws, it is considered to have a huge potential in empowering rural communities with work and their livelihood resources.
In terms of the potential of the Act, there is no doubt that there is huge potential. To what extent that potential has been realized varies hugely across the country depending on which state you're in. But certainly, the survey that we did in 2008, all the households that were 98% of the households said that they wanted 100 days of work. Half of them said that 100 days is not enough, we need more than that. So it is a very popular scheme. A large proportion of them said that it had helped them avoid hunger, to migrate for shorter spells of a fewer days in the year. It had helped them cope with illness in the family. So certainly for the poor it is an important lifeline, so to speak. However, we feel that there are huge implementation issues involved, including corruption, with increasingly more and more the delays in wage payments are undermining the potential of the program, because what is happening now is that people go to work and then